This is the first lesson in the jazz guitar accompaniment course that I'm doing for YouTube, and the first lesson is going to be on what we call locked knuckle chords. You'll notice when if you saw the introduction then, or you see other jazz guitar players, you may see these sort of shapes. Yep. Or there, or even. Okay, so this is the first thing we're going to look at. They're very economical ways of fingering chords. The first one we're going to look at, and we'll learn in this session, is the dominant 7 chord. Now you'll all be familiar with the dominant 7. You probably, if you're new to jazz, you may not know the locked knuckle version, but you probably either play this version or okay. Now these are very nice and quite good for certain things. You get this, especially this one, you'll get in a lot of rock and roll where you'll get. But in jazz that's a bit muddy, there's a bit too much doubling going on there. If we look at the actual chord itself, what we have a root, 5th, 7th, 3rd, 5th root. Or if we do this version with the little finger on, we have root, 5th, 7, 3rd, 7 root. So we're doubling a lot of notes we don't need. So rather than double any of those fifths or any of those roots, what we could do is play a chord like this. So root, 7, 3rd, 5th. By the way, in this course it's going to be really important that you really learn the degrees of the chord that we're using, rather than it be a course of me just telling you where to stick your fingers. Okay, you need to really understand what you're doing with these chords. Okay, so in this G7 chord, all we actually need is one of each note. So G, root, F, which is the 7th, B, which I'm going to do with my pinky, and then a D, which is a 5th. And we have a much less muddy sort of chord. Now you might like this kind of chord, it's definitely very good for certain kinds of things, but these locked knuckle ones are going to become very useful. Now the first thing you notice if I'm playing this one is that it's not a locked knuckle chord. The ones we call locked knuckle chords are the ones where my second finger is locked like this. Okay, so what we need to do is actually leave out another note. What you might not be aware of yet is that there's a degree to which notes are expendable in a chord. Now, in a dominant chord and also a dominant 7 chord, or in a major 7 chord, or in a minor 7 chord, the fifth, in this case the D of this G7 chord, is expendable. Okay? Actually, the next most expendable note, which might be surprising to some people, is actually the root. The most important in this dominant 7 are the F and the B, the 7th and 3rd. It's those two notes that make it a dominant chord. So what we could actually do is leave this D off, and we would get root 7 3rd, or G F B, and we have a lock knuckle dominant 7 chord. Now what we have to do is actually just damp the strings we're not using here. In this case, the flesh of that finger is damping here. We're sounding the F, sounding the B. The flesh of my pinky there is just damping the B string, and also the E string, and also the flesh of my second finger is damping the E string a little there. So if I plucked all the strummed all the strings rather, I'm just getting that dominant 7th sound. Now, as well as being very quick to change this type of chord once you're used to the fingering, it's also very useful because if we have to alter this dominant 7 chord, it's quite easy to do from this basic position. For example, if it becomes dominant 7 flat 5, okay, well the flat 5, the 5 would be the D there, so the flat 5 would be the D flat. I can easily put the D flat on with my first finger, and we get G dominant 7 flat 5. Also in the same way, if I need to make it dominant 7 sharp 5, again 5 is the D, so the sharp 5, the augmented 5th, would be D sharp. So I'm just laying the pinky over there, playing the two strings together, and dominant 7 sharp 5. From that same position I could add a flat 9. Okay, flat 9 is the same as a flattened second. The second would be A flattened, A flat, so therefore if I lay this pinky now across the top 3 strings, the G string, B string and E string, I'm actually getting G7 sharp 5 flat 9.